Remain seated, please. Permanecer sentados, por favor.
To all who come to this happy place, welcome.
Our largest single-theme land expansion ever.
Now we want you to share with us our latest and greatest dream.
Matterhorn Matt presents Matterhorn Mondays.
Welcome, everybody, to a very special episode 139 of Matterhorn Mondays, coming to you all live from the Outpost. I am, of course, your host, Matterhorn Matt.
And I am Alex the Historian.
Oh, I thought you were going to say you're the co-host, Alex the Historian, because I was going to say I'm no longer the temporary co-host. I am now sort of retitled myself as the third wheel. So I am your third wheel, Jeremy.
There it is, everybody. Yeah, Alex is back.
You always break the flow.
Come on, gosh. Yeah, but we're very glad to have Mr. Alex the Historian back on the show with us once again. But yeah, and you guys might have noticed that we didn't have a show for the past couple of weeks, and obviously there is a lot, and when I say a lot, I mean a lot of Disney news going on, but there's also a lot of other more important things going on, and not just the Disney community, but also the country, the world as well. And we wanted to, sort of take the time to reflect, find the right way to address everything. And of course, we do feel that it would be irresponsible for us to not to address everything. So today, like I mentioned at the beginning, this is a special show where we're joined by three amazing guests. We have Victoria here, Rodney, as well as Jordyn. So why don't we all give a great warm welcome to them in the chat, as well as us as well. Welcome to the show. Thank you so much for coming on. And
thank you for being on.
Yeah, and chatting with us.
Thank you for having us.
No problem.
We appreciate it greatly. But yeah, like we normally do, let's just go ahead and start off introducing ourselves. Let's see, Mr. Rodney here is the first to the left on the screen, so I think it would make the most logical sense to start with Rodney. So why don't you go ahead and sort of introduce yourself, maybe say what you do on social media or maybe YouTube. Yeah.
All right. Well, my name is Rodney. Some people may know me as Rocket Rods on Twitter and Instagram. I am a Disney artist. I mainly work with, Disney media when it comes to my art. I am also a podcaster with my friend Victoria here. We do a podcast called The Disney Tea with V that recently got revived due to recent events. Very nice working with her. And, while I'm somewhat new to the Disney community, I only really started a few years ago, but it's nice to be a part of this everything. And I'm glad that people are a part, getting involved in conversations and all that. And I'm glad to be, one of the people that can deliver the message, especially on this podcast here. So yeah, very excited for this episode, and I can't wait to see how it turns out.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for being here with us. Yeah. And now, right next to Rodney here on the left-hand side, we have Victoria. Why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself as well?
Oh, well, yes, I'm Victoria. On Twitter, he calls me PP, Instagram, and everywhere else. He calls me Pineapple Princess. Let's see, I've been in the Disney game since like 2012, so I've been here for a while. What else? I obviously, like Rodney said, I do the Disney TV podcast with him that we recently just brought back. I also have the blog Tea with V, and it basically just touches on Disney style and slightly Disney news, but mostly just like highlighting small shops and things that I enjoy. I do feel, like I said with Ronnie, I'm glad that there are some people in the community that understand that there are things that are bigger than, theme park news. So I'm really glad that I was able to come on and bring all my other friends from Twitter on here to discuss, Black Lives Matter movement within the Disney parks community.
Amazing. Well, again, big thank you for joining us today. And I guess sitting right here next to the right of Victoria, we have Jordyn. Why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself as well?
Hi everyone, I'm Jordyn. I'm Jordyn McCravey12 on Twitter and magically_McCravey on Instagram. And Instagram is kind of like where I do my thing. I like to post photos and video clips and stuff like that of how to have fun in the parks, especially being a plus size Black woman. So kind of just giving my experience of life in the parks and how to have fun and just be yourself there. So yeah, that's where most of my stuff is. But I also do like to have conversations on Twitter, especially like these deep ones that shouldn't be considered as deep. You should be open to talking about things like race and how important it is to have diversity in things that we think should be held near and dear. Like it's near and dear to many people, and it shouldn't just look one way.
All right. Well, like I said, a warm welcome to all three of our guests, and we have a really great show prepared for all of you guys, all of you listeners, all of you viewers here today. But before we get into this, Alex, do you have anything you'd like to say before we continue on here?
About what?
About what, Alex? Yeah, just anything in general you'd like to say before we start?
Well, I guess I'm glad to be back. I've been on hiatus for a while because I was moving to Portland. So now I'm here. You can see I have a nice background all set up and stuff. I spent a lot of time on this bedroom. So now you guys actually have something to look at besides like a weird wall and a fireplace. But yeah, and I love it here. It's so beautiful. Like right out my window here, there's just these beautiful trees, and then down there is like the river, so it's really great. I love it here. So I'm glad to be back.
Alex, we're glad to have you back. And Jeremy, do you have anything you'd like to say before we continue on?
Not really. I mean, I'm very excited to have this discussion. It's really been the only thing occupying my mind for the past month or so. And I also wanted to thank Victoria. When I reached out to Victoria, she really is kind of also responsible for putting this together by sort of, giving me suggestions of who to reach out to. So thank you to Victoria for helping collaborating to make this conversation happen. So yeah.
All right. Well, yeah, like I said, we are going to be having a very great discussion. We do have some sort of loose questions prepared for everybody here, but, those are just sort of a guide. We're just going to see where the conversation takes us, but why don't we go ahead and start off here with the first question that we prepared. And I guess we can just sort of run down the line of like Rodney, and then to the right, and then to the right again. So, yeah. First question here: what are your guys' thoughts about being part of this Disney fan community, whether it be the community in general, Diz Twitter, or Disney YouTube as well?
Oh, well, starting out with me, I would definitely say that most of my friends that are, some are here today with us. I've met a ton of great people on, Diz Twitter and the Disney community, and I am definitely grateful to be a part of something bigger. Starting out, I wasn't really into the community like most people. I was, outside looking in, very hesitant to. Once I got in, it was definitely different. I believe we have such at the core, we have such a great community that could be so great. And we just because I have a semi positive interactions with the community, there's always things that can be worked on, and I think we'll get into a little bit more of that later. But being somebody who isn't really or hasn't really been in not really the spotlight, but in a position in the community to speak out about certain things and share content and interact with a lot of people. It's definitely it's definitely new to me. It's definitely new to me. Uh, it's been a crazy experience. It's had its ups and downs. Within every community, there's definitely negative moments, and I try every day to bring awareness and bring light to issues. And I'm glad that people are listening now. While I would have liked people to listen earlier, I take what I can get, and yeah, overall, I think the community is great, but we definitely have a lot of work to do.
Mm-hmm. Okay, wonderful. Well, Victoria, what about you?
Well, I feel like I was kind of dreading this question.
Oh no.
Because, like Rodney said, the community as a whole, I do feel is wonderful, and I'm honestly grateful for the community because there's so many things in the community and people in the community that have impacted my life literally since I was 19. Like, looking at photos the other day where I started my college program, and that's pretty much where it all started for me. And some of those people I'm still with today, and I've met them through Tumblr and Instagram and Twitter. Like, yeah, so I'm definitely grateful for all the opportunities, career wise, like just everything. But there are issues. It's a fandom. It can be quite toxic sometimes. So there are times where it's just like, yeah, you have to take a step back because excuse me, it's very overwhelming. It can be really negative. Like, just even with the most simplest of topics within the community, it can go left really fast. So yeah, there are things that need to be addressed. There are some times where people might just need to take a step back, but overall, yeah, I love it. Like, I wouldn't have it any other way.
All right, wonderful. Well, and now, Jordyn, what about you?
It's interesting. I never thought I'd be in like a position where there would be a community of people online that like Disney. You don't think that they exist.
Yeah.
But we do. And I think, whether it's Facebook, YouTube, Instagram or Twitter, Tumblr even, there's good and bad in every fan community. It's just kind of comes with the nature. So you take the good and you hold on tight to it, and you look at the bad and you learn how to grow from it. And you kind of just find ways to not fall down those rabbit holes, so to speak. Especially when like conversations are getting heated and things like that. And you just kind of realize it's okay to take a step back. It's okay, to be like, okay, I just need to cut that negativity out because I at the core of it, I enjoy the good that comes from it and the joy that it gives me. And that's the only reason why we should all really be in those communities is because it does bring us joy. We do enjoy doing what we do on whatever platform we have, and we enjoy the people that we meet on those platforms as well. So, and just kind of using, whatever castle park you have near you as like a core and be like, this is our hub. This is why we do what we do. This is why we love what we do. And just always coming back to that to ground you. And like at the end of the day, it's a theme park or it's a movie theater. It's like a movie house. It's a company. Like, don't let it like envelop your entire life to the point where you can't do anything else because it's supposed to bring you joy.
All right. Wow. Yeah, really well said. Thank you, everybody, for running through that. And Jeremy, we have another question prepared as well, don't we?
Well, we have many, and then we're just, sort of going to riff off the discussion. So given all the events, Disney put out a statement a couple weeks ago. I don't know if I'm lagging or not because my internet is being wonky. Okay, cool. Disney put out a statement, obviously, a couple weeks ago, basically in support of those in the Black community and Black creative positions within Disney. What are your thoughts on that statement? Did they go far enough? What can they do better to support the Black Lives Matter movement?
this is a very, very important question I was looking forward to. Uh, while you know, Disney definitely did did the right thing about putting statements up, and they made donations to various black-centered causes, and highlighted black uh, creators, in their space. Um, while that's great, and it's definitely something that was needed. There's always room to do more. There's always room to improve. Not just the outside world, looking in to your company, and diversity, and just creators in general, because there's been just a ton of issues, uh, company wise, black these. Let's see, where can I really start on this? Um, there was a discussion maybe like a week ago about black centered stories that Disney's creating, and diverse stories in general that Disney's coming out with, and the people behind these stories of aren't of color. There's these the target audience for these types of stories, like Princess and the Frog, or like Coco, or the newer ones that are coming out, like Raya and all that. The people behind these pictures aren't the people depicted in these stories, and I just think it's while it's nice that we're getting represented in such a family oriented and worldwide distributed company. I think that you can't really be for the cause and truly with us, unless you start employing more black creators, black storytellers, black artists, and people that have experience in the black community and know our struggles, telling our stories. And not even that, there's just it's as a whole, Disney just has a lot to work on, especially like in the parks. I know it's been brought up that, like, the hair issues with the CMs, and hairstyles and professionalism. it we've come such a far way from when these rules were created, and there's been discussions outside of Disney about workplaces and hairstyles and cultural styles that just fit certain hair types and certain ethnicities, and it really needs to be addressed. And unless we start looking inwards, those outward actions aren't going to mean anything. I love the company. We all grew up with Disney. We all have a connection to Disney. But loving a company and loving what they do is also holding them accountable and holding them to a standard for every single fan out there. There are not even dozens, there are millions of Black Disney fans out there. And, they have to feel seen, and they have to feel included in the company, employees, consumers, the people in charge. There just needs to be more. There needs to be more.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Well said.
Tough act to follow, Victoria. Would you like to follow that act?
My co-host.
Exactly.
So, I mean, yeah, pretty much I do agree with Rodney. I am very appreciative of this huge company that we all love, speaking out on something that is dear. It should be dear to, all the Disney fans in the community. Because, I mean, at the end of the day, it affects us all. So I will say, yes, I am appreciative. I'll always be appreciative of what they do for any charity, especially a charity centered around Black causes. But I also do feel like they're starting to do more over the years. I know recently they just did some changes with Freeform. I do believe there is a Black female in charge of that now, which is wonderful. They're doing a lot more with females, particularly African American women, which is wonderful. And I know they also did a well, I guess it's called a regarding diversity and everything that happened with the Black Lives Matter movement with a bunch of African American employees within the company. I believe it was just ABC and men. Would have been nice to see some women, but we gotta take it one step at a time, I guess. So I guess like I do agree with Rodney said it. In order to make change in the outside world, you do have to start inward, and there are issues in the company as a whole. Not even just talking about theme parks. Theme parks is a whole nother ballgame because they have so many sectors. So yeah, I do feel like they have to work on themselves and then get out there, like putting more Black creators on their, theme park media list, because that's almost non-existent. That goes for Universal too as well. You're not exempt to Universal. Oh, I know this is about Disney, but what else? More like they do advertise towards more multicultural things, so we do see that in the media as well. But I mean, it's just like they do that, but for example, Princess and the Frog had her anniversary, there was almost nothing. For Black History Month, I didn't see anything. But so yeah, it's just little things like that it's just like, oh, do you actually care, or is it performative? It makes me second guess. So yeah, I feel like it's great first steps, and I understand as a business you have to take them carefully, just because you don't want to offend anyone, you don't want to say the wrong thing, you don't want to. It's performative. You want to make sure you're catering to your audience and you're doing it in a respectful way, in a creative way, in a way that draws them in. But it's just like Disney, you already drew us in from the game. So just do that. Ask questions. Don't be afraid to ask. It's okay. We're here. We're not going to bite your head off. Sorry. So yeah, that's what I feel. Just ask, and we will. What you want. You already have my wallet secured. That's it.
Exactly. And Jordyn, you have anything to add to that?
So this one's hard for me because of my connection with the company. But I think when it comes to Disney, it's important to remember that it's not just Disney, like Disney movies. Like we're talking ABC, we're talking Freeform, we're talking now a lot of Fox Media, we're talking ESPN. So when they make these statements, it is for everyone and all of the people who support those sectors. It's so easy to think, okay, Disney, Mickey Mouse, but you're thinking, okay, that's also Sports Center, that's also, Grey's Anatomy. It's all these these things that come together to make this big conglomerate. And just remembering that when blanket statements come out, because I know a lot of people are saying that's not enough, it's not enough. It's like it's a beginning, it's a good start, and we expect more. So from here, especially the timing of everything is so difficult because we're balancing how to amplify Black voices, but then we also have this huge thing going on globally. And so kind of finding that balance, that if one thing wasn't happening, we'd be able to put 110%, I believe, give or take, into, making these big changes, but also like, okay, well, we also have to worry about X, Y, and Z while, like reopening the parks and things like that. So it's a good start, but don't think that I don't think, especially this time, the Black Disney community is going to let Disney rest on their laurels. We're going to remember this in 6 months. We're going to remember this when it's time for previews for Flower and Garden next year, or for a different, or like if a ride opens up, or movies and things like that. We're going to remember it. And like, okay, well, you said you put this statement out across all of these platforms that you stood by Black lives. Where are those media passes? Where is that amplification of those Black voices? Don't let it be a trend. Like we're gonna remember it because we remember a lot.
Very well said. And how does this also extend to the fan community? Like, what does advocacy look like within the fan community? And what does action look like within the fan community?
Whew. We're starting off with the good questions. Okay. Oh, gosh, we've done a whole episode.
I'll take a break from asking the questions after.
We've done a whole episodes on this on Disney with me. Trust me, it's such a complex issue within the fan community. First, God, let's just start out with Black creators in the community. They're here and they're loud. They're trying to they've been trying to get seen for years, and you have these people either coming up over them that aren't Black creators, and people favor them more than these Black creators that are putting out so much original content. So many new perspectives to Disney, from the eyes of a Black person, and seeing like you rarely see a Black individual going to these media events and these openings, and it's always these non POC people being represented in the community, and seeming like they're they will represent the community as a whole, when it's not true. This community is so diverse that the influencer culture in the Disney community needs to be diverse also. If you have a diverse community and you don't have diverse influencers, you're not representing the community as a whole, and that's definitely something we need to work on. It's number one on my list. The good thing now is that these Black creators are being heard, they're being seen, and I'll give that to the community. But there's still so much work. There's so much work. Like small shops, there's so many Black-owned small shops that you can support. You're helping out people that this is their main source of income that are Black. There's Black Disney artists like myself. I'm an artist. I love Disney. I damn near draw Disney every day. Support them, like them, spread their pictures, support their commissions, follow them on social media. YouTubers like Sean, he's been doing the Lord's work recently. He's been relating the issues to Disney and making it, highlighting these sort of, we can say that it's sometimes problematic Disney history, and we have to address it because that's the company that we like, and sometimes companies do wrong things, and it's okay. We have to admit it. It was the past, but we can't ignore the past. We can't just turn a blind eye to it, which I think Sean is definitely one of the great examples of a YouTuber that's highlighting the cause and is a Black individual, and is doing it in a format that can relate to every fan, especially with Song of the South series and Mickey's Melodrama, and like amusement park ideas like the Dunk Tank. That was a really good one. If people haven't seen his thread on that on Twitter about the Dunk Tank and how it relates to racial inequality in America, please do. And the other thing is that when we talk about these non-Black creators, they have a responsibility too. We're not going to act like they're a big influence in the community, because they are. So they do have a responsibility to talk about this stuff, because they have they have followers that are Black, that are different shades, that are diverse. And I'm going to be honest, some of them have not been living up to their expectations. Some of them have been directly ignoring it. Some people have been, saying it's not my place to. It's everybody's place in America. We all live in America. Our history, we've all been in a history class, what we were founded on, and this is we're trying to change, and you live here, so it is your responsibility to talk about it. It is your responsibility donate, speak out, highlight, fundraisers, spread news, and while yes, some influencers have been great at doing that, have been great, there are people that are lacking and that are falling behind and that are choosing to stay silent. And I think the community as a whole needs to start holding them accountable. Even if you aren't Black, it's a moral idea, a moral dilemma. It's a moral thing to do, and that's a very big thing, very big change that we can make in the community. And let's start pressuring Disney to, like I said, going back to the whole inside the community, inside of the company, and switching things around. Advocate for more Black creators. We have so many people that are making Black centric stories outside of Disney that can definitely come in and start making changes. If there was a really popular short that was about a Black father and a Black girl, doing her hair. It's called Hair Love. It reminded me of Disney so much. It wasn't a Disney short. I think it was Sony, but just it's kind of disheartening to see other companies getting the hint and doing it, these ideas when Disney is probably the biggest film company out there right now, and they're not taking initiative. Fans can petition, contact, not even contact Disney because gosh, that would be extremely difficult. But use your socials. Be like, these newer stories. Like just say like there's Black artists out there that we can definitely pull from, and we encourage Disney to start using those resources. And there's just a multitude that the fan community can do. And now we're starting to see change, but we just can't give up yet. While it may seem like things have died down, it's not. They're reigniting every day. There's stuff going on, and we're not going to stop. If we have to seem annoying and remind you every week that this is a problem, we'll. It's very easy to get tired when you're not in our shoes. It's very easy to say like, I did my part. Let me move on. It's never going to be done. And this, like we've said, this community definitely needs work, and we won't stop until we see enough change.
Very well said.
Once again, tough act to follow. Who wants to follow that act? I'll let you choose who wants to follow that act.
Victoria?
I mean, I will.
Gosh dang it, Rodney. Okay. So, honestly, it's simple, but it's not. As Disney fans, yeah, honestly, just use your voice. Historically, it's been seen that, white people, that you will be heard way well, and it's shown all the time. Like Rodney said, Disney Instagram and like all that is a amazing example of that. And I did notice, me and a few Black creators on Instagram did notice that we're getting sudden momentum in like our numbers and the people that are seeing us, but just following us isn't going to be enough. You actually have to support. Like, you have to, first off, genuinely like what we post, like genuinely post what I post, what Jordyn posts, what all we post. And if it's not for you, that's cool. I respect that, because there's some things that everyone else likes that I don't like. But, just support, share on your social media. Like, word of mouth even still works in the year of our Lord 2020.
Right.
So, just doing little things like that. Like, do not underestimate your voice, because your voice as a white person is pretty much, sorry to say, because it's true, but it's course, it will be heard more than me. And I've seen this so much since the Black Lives Matter movement started. Like, there have been people who have rallied for me. It's like, yeah, we hear your voice, but then the following week, they're basically telling me I'm wrong on something that matters my people, that
Right.
doesn't concern your voice. So it's just like, do you actually care? Is it performative? But that's a whole nother thing. So as far as like doing that, just share on your social media, just word of mouth, all that stuff. As far as the Black Lives Matter movement, go to a protest. If you don't want to go to a protest, you're not comfortable. I know I wasn't. My social anxiety didn't want me to do it. I did it anyway. So if you don't want to do a protest, donate. If you're broke like me, just sign a petition. Like that only takes 30. And like Rodney said, we do have to hold certain people accountable because you are in a position where you can influence thousands of people to care about these causes, and then you're just like radio silent. But when Disney says, "Oh, we're gonna open on June 11th," like, "Hey, what's up? Hello." Like, no, that doesn't work like that. I mean, you can, in fact, post about the movement and then post about Disney at the same time. I've been doing it. I know Jordan's been doing it. Sean especially has been doing it. That's all he talks about mainly, which I love so much. Rodney talks about it all the time. I know I've done threads just informing people about certain things that you might not even know about, like Sean did. The melodrama and well, I can't really say anything about his next video, but he did tell me. But yeah, it's gonna be something featuring a doll. That's all I'll say about that. So yeah, like I did a thread about African American cinema, not even just Disney. Like it's just cinema in general, because I mean, for example, like Black Panther has been like the biggest thing to hit since like sliced bread.
Right.
All black cast, costumers, directors, soundtrack, all of it. So just little things like that, honestly, just share it. Like your voice actually matters, especially when you vote. Please vote. Even in the smaller elections, please vote, because your matter. And I'm just saying what my grandmother said. So topic though. But as far as advocacy in the community, yes, just share. Just go out and look. Just go research. Just don't be lazy. Just go out and look. And I apologize for my dog, but
it's okay. It's just strike one. It's okay. I go up to 50, so you're good.
Just have a genuine love for going out and looking for something new. Don't try and stay in the same cookie cutter things that you know. It's okay to be scared if you only know a certain thing. Yeah, there's creators out here that are doing such great original content and people don't even know about it. So share it on Twitter, share it on Instagram, tell your friends about it, all that jazz. And be genuine about it. It's okay. Like, I'm not going to say it's okay if you made a mistake and said something like 30 years ago, but just own up to it and be genuine about it and show that you're going to learn from that. We're humans. We grow and we evolve, but an apology isn't going to matter if I don't see any growth from the apology and what you learned. So, yeah.
Great. All right. And last but not least, we have here Jordyn. Yeah.
So I think another thing that's really important when it comes to fan advocacy is intersectionality within the advocacy. There's a lot of times that, things get very, like Victoria said, cookie cutter. And it's like, okay, well, I'm going to start following like a Black creator. Okay, cool. Or I'm going to start standing up for Black Lives Matter. That's great. But within those communities, there is intersectionality that also needs to be stood up for, like saying, okay, well, I'm going to fight, or I'm going to share a petition about Black women's lives, or about Black trans lives, Black gay lives. We're intersectional people. We're not just like, I am not just Black. I am Black and I am a woman, and all these things and all these identities go together to make me who I am. And so I'm not just fighting for Black lives, but I'm fighting for all of these other little things together. And so I think when you're fighting for intersectionality, you're also fighting for inclusivity. So going out there and just like Victoria and Rodney said, doing something. This is no longer a game of, it's not a game, first of all, but it's no longer the days where it's like, I'm just going to sit back and listen. We've had that. It's been, 3 weeks now? Time's been flying by. But the whole, I don't feel like I have anything good to add, it's over. If it seems too big for you, and there's a lot going on, and I get that. If it seems too big for you, narrow it down to something super simple, black and white. Look at it. Was what happened, the whole thing that sparked the Black Lives Matter movement this time, because it's not the first time it's popped up, is what happened that sparked it. Was it good or was it bad? We can pretty much all agree it was bad. Start there. You don't have to have all the details. You don't have to have all the nuances, because those things come from Black people sharing their experiences. That's not something that other people of color, non-Black people of color, that's not something that white people can attest to. And I wouldn't want you to. I don't want you to try to guess what my experience of being a Black girl going to private school in Miami, Florida, being the only Black girl in her class. That's not something you're going to understand, because that was my experience. But we can take it down to the very bare bones of everything. People treating Black people as if they're not equal is not a good thing. Black and white. Stop there. Full stop. And what can you do to speak out against the mistreatment? Sharing petitions, amplifying Black voices, even just sharing other posts. There's so many good infographics on Instagram these days with good information. Reading them, soaking it in, and sharing them to a story is literally the bare minimum. And even that is something that I'm not seeing people do. But like Victoria said, Magic Kingdom's opening, or, the whole new reservation system has details out, and everyone's so quick to talk about that. But we're not talking about how Breonna Taylor's murderers are still out and about. That's the thing. I don't like it. The small things that are coming back up is what frustrates me personally, because it's like, okay, cool. Yeah, no, there's something going on in the makeup world. Who cares? We still have people out here who are not being punished for their crimes. We still have people who are out here fighting for rights. It's 2020. We shouldn't have to be fighting for rights anymore. So just kind of, I understand the need for escapism, because for a lot of people, for Black people, we've been living this life our entire lives. I'm 26. It's another day in, another day out. I see it. There's going to be some kind of microaggression I'm going to face today, some kind of implicit bias I'm going to face today. But with so many more Black people now speaking out, sorry about that, on their experiences, now it's like, okay, it's exhausting because of the fact that it's now just kind of all being piled on white people, and they're realizing this is a heavy situation. And so we get that, sometimes you need to tap out for 5 minutes, go drink some water, take a nap, but we need you to get back in the fight. Simple as that.
Oh, right.
That's fantastic.
I had a question for everybody, kind of branching off of our topic about Disney and being in the Black community. So as you know, Disney has a pretty scary past, with their history of having racial stereotypes and things in Disney movies and cartoons and such. And as you know, the fan community in general is very polarized. They feel like they either should love or hate something. And with that in mind, with things like what Sean has been bringing to light, such as Mickey Mouse and his past and how he was created, things like his gloves and that dating back to minstrel shows and things like that. So my question is, what kind of mindset should the Disney fan community have about topics like Mickey? I mean, is it okay to still like Mickey knowing his past? Or, should we dislike him? I wanted to know what you guys have to say about things like that.
Wow, that is a great question. With the Mickey question, no, we don't have to hate Mickey. I like Mickey. We all like Mickey. Mickey Mouse is a staple. But him being a staple doesn't mean that, ultimately he's a cartoon character. Somebody else influences that picture. He's a picture on a screen. He is an ideal to Disney. Back then, the people that were in charge of this cartoon character, had an idea of what was right and wrong back then, and it's not the idea that was right and wrong right now. There are definitely some moments with Mickey Mouse that are very disparaging to the Black community, and it's in the past now. But that does not, like I said, that does not mean that we are going to turn a blind eye and act like it didn't happen. We can hold Disney accountable for what they did back then, because nobody was about it up until now. Like Sean's been doing this wonderful job of highlighting the Mickey shorts back then. Like, I just found out about the cannibal short that Mickey Mouse was in, that showed the typical caricature of Black people in Africa. The very racist idea that these people were uncivilized and like living in jungles and all that, when that wasn't true. But that's what they thought back then, and that's what they thought was right to highlight, and it wasn't. We and as long as we understand that and we realize that we shouldn't be partaking in content like that anymore, it's okay to like Mickey Mouse. It's okay to like Mickey Mouse. It's okay to watch the Mickey Mouse shorts now. It's okay to, ride Runaway Railway, but just keep that in the back of your mind. There's been strides in the storytelling with him, and they understand now what's right and wrong, and they won't do it. But like I said, we just can't act like that didn't happen. And going back to Disney as a whole and stepping aside from Mickey Mouse, there's been discourse on like Song of the South, which is a big one that we've been talking about lately, because we've been speaking on that since like February, and it's recently been brought back up. And I'll just kind of reiterate it here. The Song of the South is not a good movie. It is not a quality and ideal. It was an all right movie. It was, but the ideals of it in there. This freed Black person during the Reconstruction period of America that's happy to be there for his former owners, and it is still staying on the plantation, and it's happy go lucky, speaking in really broken up English, and the kind of seems like they extremely dumbed this character down to seem kind of like blissfully ignorant and happy to entertain. And it's very similar to the Jim Crow kind of caricature of Black people, like, I'm just here to serve up laughs and stories and all that. And it's okay to recognize this and not watch it. Like, you don't need to watch a movie to understand how bad it was. You don't need to collect these copies of Song of the South to preserve history. We all know what Song of the South was. There's a ride in Disneyland that's very loosely based on it, that has its own discourse right now, which I won't be going in because that's a whole nother can of worms.
I may have a question coming up regarding it. So you warned.
Damn it! Dang
it! I'll speak on that one.
I'll get to that bridge when yeah. But you don't need to remind Black people of what that movie was or what Disney's done. we know Disney's not the ideals that the people in charge have aren't consistent of what they had back then. And everybody brings up it got the main actor an award, like he was the first to should do this and that, and it doesn't matter. It does not matter. It does not matter. He was awarded for. Let's just be honest. No Black actor back then wanted to be doing roles like
at all.
No, at all. They did. It was demeaning. It was. But actors back then, that's the only roles that they could play. It was, think like Gone with the Wind and Song of the South and other movies that kind of romanticize the antebellum period of the South and Reconstruction, and it's just overall we shouldn't be advocating to see these shorts again and them re-released on like Disney Plus or anything, because I know when Disney Plus first came out, there's a whole bunch of discourse on like, oh, are they going to pull Warner Brothers, put like a word, like a paragraph in front of it, to make them understand. We don't need a paragraph. We don't need the movie to understand that. Even though there's hundreds of copies of bootleg copies, circulating in the South.
Yeah, I mean that's how I found it through a link.
Right.
I did not.
God, I think I've seen the animated segments of it, and that's all I care to see. Because even the animated segments of it are very racially charged. If you think about the Tar Baby is a caricature of Black African American children back then, and it shouldn't be highlighted. And we always go back to the topic of Disney and like how he thought about it. Walt Disney's one of my inspirations. He got me into going to school for Imagineering. He was an inspiration to me, and he's an inspiration to many people. But we have to realize that these people weren't perfect back then. No, nobody's saying that Walt Disney was, a horrible person, because, he made a lot of strides for animation and family. Black people grew up watching his movies. We know that a lot of people back then just didn't think there was anything wrong with it. That's how people were raised. That's how, especially like white Americans were raised back then. But, it's still our responsibility to point out that this past media that was created, it's not good and it shouldn't be circulated. We should not see a Disney Plus release. We should not see a special engagement. It should just be buried in the vaults forever. It should never come.
All right, wonderful. Well, Victoria.
The song, the question was about Mickey Mouse, right?
Yeah.
But that's really, it's interesting that it went in that direction though, because it really, there's all this demand. And one of the reasons why I'm such a fan of Sean is this really leading the way in the discourse about embedded and normalized racism in iconography, in anything. And it's just been so, it's been helping me in my sort of inward looking at this time about how to look at the world, and anyway, yes.
Oh, true. I mean, I text Sean like every now and again and we talk. So I know before he put out most of his videos, he'll do it, he'll test it on me to see if anything. So yes, I'm actually the one that put him on the Aunt Jemima thing, because I've been preaching that for like 3 years now.
You really have.
So it's just I don't know why it blew up now. I'm glad. But so as far as Mickey Mouse, no. We can love Mickey. He can come to the cookout. It's okay. He is, like you said, he's an icon in American culture, but we also have to understand the fact American culture, and our foundation is not clean. We are not on good soil. So let's we are definitely on stolen land. So I'm just gonna put it out there like that. Yeah, no, Mickey's history. I mean, I'm not gonna knock him for that because at the end of the day, it was based on someone from that time period who and ran with it. Now, like he has evolved, obviously, but there are also things that you need to understand. That's where X, Y, and Z came from. This is where we are now. I'm not telling you give me reparations for Mickey gloves. I'm not saying that. All I'm saying is just understand, where certain aspects of the cartoon comes from. It's like Betty Boop, for example.
Right.
Betty, Black woman, almost for some reason, no one knows that. I don't know why. But also going back to the Aunt Jemima thing, it's just like, yeah, and Uncle Ben. No one talks about Uncle Ben, but
nobody.
Yeah, but poor Uncle Ben. And not like Spider-Man Uncle Ben. We're talking about the Rice Uncle Ben. But although I feel bad for Spider-Man's Uncle Ben too. He keeps getting they keep killing that poor man, but besides the point. So yeah, it's just like, yes, we have grown up with all of these faces and icons that we've seen. Like, I love Aunt Jemima pancakes and all this stuff, but that also kind of ties to imitation of life too, which I have discussed in my African American cinema history thing. Basically, it's just like you use her face, but you don't understand what she represents. Like in Imitation of Life, for example. God, what is her name? It's been so long. But the person who brings basically all the tools to the table, like the pancake recipe, all that, she's only offered by the white character, I think like 30% in the company. But it's just like that's my recipe. My face is on the marketing. So why am I only being offered 30% of the interest in the company? Things like that. It ties to just Aunt Jemima, it ties to Mickey, it ties to Uncle Ben. It just, we have to be aware of where it comes and make necessary changes. Just because it's familiar to you doesn't make it right. Like just because, hey, I'm familiar with Aunt Jemima pancake, she's been on there since like before my grandmother was born, doesn't mean mammy on pancakes all the time. Like, that's just that. Like I get it. I grew up with it. There's things I've grown up with, and that, like, for example, Gone with the Wind was how I got into enjoying those movies from that time period. That and Great Movie Ride. But Gone with the Wind, Singing with the Rain, those were my intros. But Gone with the Wind, when you're watching it as a 14-year-old, you don't really grasp the fact that it's romanticizing slavery because it's not really taught in our schools. Like, we're taught that it happened, but we don't get like the nitty-gritty of it. Like, there's a where I'm from Baltimore. So there's a Blacks and Wax museum, and it goes really deep the culture of slavery. Like, it'll show you the chains that slaves were in. It'll show you like how we were tortured. So it's just like things like that. No one wants to get into that because it's uncomfortable. But the fact of the matter is, at the end of the day, when it comes to icons, when it comes to our American history, we have to talk about it. Not grow as a culture. We will not grow as a people. America essentially looks like a third world country because of this.
Right.
So I'm not going to get into the Song of the South because I could rant about that for hours. But I mean, that the last Airbender movie. But because both were horrible. But that brings up a good point, though. It's just like everyone wants to. You can talk about a bad movie. Like, for example, we don't want to see Song of the South for obvious reasons, but for some reason you want to talk about it. But it's just like Last Airbender was a bad movie too, and they did a ton of whitewashing, and that's just one issue. But I'm not going to get into that. So it's just like, why do you want to see Black people look like that? Like I get it. You want to see it to learn. I'm going to quote that because that's the excuse nowadays, especially with Song of the South, because they like to say that Hattie McDaniel was, but Hattie McDaniel was stuff. So there's that. But yeah, just I don't understand why you want to see us so bad, but at the same time, you can just go and watch Black Panther and see us in all our glory and all our pride and be powerful like we are. But you want to just go ahead and watch Song of the South for quote unquote learning and just to watch us beat the meat and sing like, Negro spirituals. I mean, I don't get it, but that's just me.
All right, wonderful. And now,
wow.
Jordyn, how about you?
So, I'm gonna say something controversial yet brave. The whole I want to see Song of the South thing, to me personally, is so akin to like, why can't we say the N-word? Like, why do you want it so badly?
Yeah.
Like, why do you want it so badly? Like, we all know it's awful. Why do you feel the need that it's your right to be given this entertainment in a way? Like, it's not entertaining in any way, shape, or form. You know the history of it. Google is free. Like, Google the history of it, and there you go. You have the whole, this is why it's bad. End of story. You don't need to see the movie. There's a bunch of things out there that I've never seen, I've never read, but I've Googled. I'm like, that's not worth my time because it's not going to enrich me in any way, shape, or form. I can get that same enrichment somewhere else.
Exactly.
Especially with all of Sean's content. At this point, you don't need to see the movie. Support a Black creator. Learn from him.
Right.
Like, you don't need the rest of it. And as far as Mickey goes, the gloves thing has been bothering me for so long at this point, for the last 3 weeks. I should say so long, for 3 weeks. Because I've seen like all these small shops. Everyone's like, we're gonna create a product and 5% of those proceeds of that product is gonna go to Black Lives Matter. And what is it? It's all Mickey gloves. And I'm like, y'all, the irony is astounding. It's just the volume in this room is astronomical at this point. The fact that you are going to use something that is racially charged in its history to then use as a form of proceeds, I get it. And that goes back to like the bare minimum of things, where it's like, okay, I have a small shop, let me create a product. I get it. There's that effort there, but you're going to do 10% of the proceeds from that one product that probably won't sell that well.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you could do 10% of the proceeds of the entire shop for like a week and definitely donate a lot more, but you're going to use that one product of Mickey gloves in all different skin tones and be like, Black Lives Matter. I'm like, I mean, I guess, but yeah, like, let's do a little intrinsic and like a little history lesson. But we don't need to hate Mickey. I think when it comes to things like that, you learn from the past. You realize that that's what happened. You learn it, you embrace it, you move on from it, and you grow. But if we're gonna spend all of our energy going like back and forth, again, this comes up to, what are we really fighting at this point?
Right.
Like, we're gonna fight the media conglomerate as to take Mickey out of the park. It's like, that's not gonna happen. Like, I'm looking at my TV screen right now. I have pictures flashing by, and it's a picture of me meeting Mickey. Like, it's just, he's everywhere. He's literally everywhere. We're not gonna get rid of him. So how about, instead of, advocating and fighting to get rid of Mickey in all the theme parks and on all Disney iconography, I don't know, why don't we advocate for having a princess who is Black and a human for more than 2% of her movie, and then she becomes an animal.
That's
these are the things that I feel like I will die on that hill.
Oh, I will also die on that hill.
How you gonna? I waited 15 years of my life to have a princess that looked like me, and she was a frog for like 87% of the film.
I will bring that up for the Song of the South conversation because that immensely.
Not okay. But again, look at where we came from. Took that long to get one. We're gonna grow from that. And for everyone who's like, oh well, we don't need another one. We have Tiana. I'm like, well, how many white princesses you got? Because I know little girls who don't know the difference between Cinderella and Aurora because they're both blonde, and Tinkerbell. I see it on the daily. So I'm like, your kids don't even know the difference between those three. Like, we can afford an extra Black Princess or 4.
Or 5.
Just saying.
Well, I want to thank you so much for answering that question, especially in particular because, my content is all about Disney's history, and it's hard to create content for the Disney fans who really want to hear more about Walt and Mickey and stuff like that, and yet still introduce, the problems with that past and do it in a way that makes the fans feel like, hey, we still like Disney, but we have to talk about this stuff too. So, and that's hard for even me to do. I found it hard when I did my recent video the other day, and I was like, how do I talk about this? So I wanted to thank you so much for addressing that, because we're all Disney fans, and I think it's great to hear it, and to understand it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and one of the Victoria, go if you have something to say.
Oh no, I agree.
Okay. No, just one of the reasons why, Sean is, I think, one of the best things to happen to the Disney fan community probably ever, simply because he's totally changing the way, like, actually, not just like, oh, I'm aware that there are some problems, but that's not actually the important history. He's actually saying, no, this is what's actually the most important about the history and the most interesting. I find all of this new information to be exciting. Yes, there is that coping mechanism that comes up and goes like, shove it away. But no, when I choose to put the white fragility aside, then it's just it's a whole new world of new and exciting information. And progress is inherent in Disney, so this is a part of that. This is progress. And I think the way we tell Disney history has needed an upgrade for a long time, because, and I've said this often, it's either like Disney is a magical company with a magical history and Walt Disney did everything, there were no other artists working for him at all, or it's like Walt Disney was a dark prince manipulating children into, and I think what's interesting is that history, the reason why we love Disney history should be because it is complicated, it is multifaceted, and it is complex. And this moment right now is making me realize, really for the first time, that, oh my God, this is the history. This is the history that is worth sharing, that is worth something. So, yeah.
Yeah, and I have a question as well. I'm very interested to hear you guys' thoughts on this. I'm sure you all have seen the past couple of weeks, many Disney fans have voiced their opinions on changing theme park attractions such as Splash Mountain. Yeah, you can go first. I would love to know what your guys' thoughts are about possibly, retheming Splash Mountain, or even if this extends into other attractions as well. So yeah, we'll go ahead and start with Jordyn here.
Okay, here's what I gotta say about this, because everyone wants to say, we're gonna take out Splash Mountain, get rid of Song of the South, and we're gonna do Tiana's Voyage Down the Bayou. And I'm like, do you not see how problematic that is? That you're going to give the one princess who always just gets like the short end of the stick anyway, and like merchandising and just everything, marketing, and the one attraction you're gonna give her is just gonna be an overlay of the racist ride. We're gonna move we're gonna kick the racists out, move the black family in.
Oh God!
I'm like, does she not deserve more? She deserves the world. Just something that's not gonna be like, okay, and then, because at the end of the day, even if we did overlay Splash Mountain, it's such a popular attraction. So even if they change the theming of it, it's still gonna be a splash something. There's gonna be a drop, a couple of drops, and a big drop. So to just kind of put a big Band-Aid is like the fake version of reparations. It's like, you're owed so many things. Just like we were all promised the 40 acres and the mule back then. It's like, here you go. Here's a sheep. Like, we're going to give you a Band-Aid. Hope you feel better. Sorry about our history, but now you're Black Princess who's a frog. Because she's going to be a frog for most of the ride. There's Tiana in there. Am I wrong? Like, she's gonna be a frog. The bride finishes the boat. I mean, everyone has it all drawn out and all romanticized, and I just sit there and I'm like, no, it doesn't. It's not even. There's no way to capture the essence of who Tiana is as a character in a water ride. She's a chef. She is driven. She believes in hard work. And we're gonna, oh, but you're a frog, so here's lily pads and a bayou and some fireflies. So the whole petitioning to change Splash Mountain is a deviation away from what we really need to be fighting for, which are more Black voices in the community. Don't give me a ride and tell me to shut up and sit down, because I feel like that was what would happen next. It's like, okay, you got it. So now what else do you want? So that's my piece.
Yeah. So who's Victoria? You want to take this one? Or should I go?
Want to take it? I'll take it.
Because you know how I am on this. You know, I be.
You know how I am on this. So I'll start with this one. I was so pissed off when I saw this. Like, I can't believe people how insulting that was. Like, I was just like, am I on It's a Small World or something? Like, you cannot. Now, granted, first off, let's start here. This whole thing was stupid to begin with, because ain't no way they are changing Black Mountain, and that's on period. So they are
money too.
So I don't even know why this idea. I guess people like armchair Imagineer, and that's cool. I support that. I support imagination, because that's what we're about. No, absolutely not. No, that is so insulting. So I'm going to start off with, now Splash Mountain is a very watered down version of decent parts of a racist film. Personally don't like it. Well, before I knew where it came from, I'm just not into water rides, period. So I only it when my friends asked me to. But when I found out about it, I definitely wasn't about it. So again, Jordyn said, so we're just take the watered down part of Song of the South and then cover it up with and I said this on my show, actually. It's just like between Song of the South and Princess and the Frog, Dumbo in the middle, because we're not going to ignore that mess.
We ain't forgetting that.
We didn't forget that. We don't forget that. So, and I'm going to be completely honest, and somebody might get mad at me for this. Princess and the Frog really that good of a representation as far as our culture and for Black people. It's good. I'm glad it was done by the lead in animation, but it's just like when you look at concept art for Tiana, that's what we wanted. We wanted her with her afro. We want. Now, keep in mind, backtrack for concept art. She was a servant before she was a chef.
Yep.
So let's start.
Like, so, get the afro or the good career? Which one you want?
Right. Like, do you want that? Which one do you want? You can't have both. Why can't? But that's beside the point. So going back to the attraction. Yeah, look at Princess and the Frog concept art wise, you could already tell there was issues. I don't know what made them think, hey, we're gonna make our first Black princess and then make her a servant. So you really didn't learn anything. So as far as Princess and the Frog, that movie itself is great. We are proud of it, appreciate it. We love that girl. But as far as like what Jordyn said, she has minimal representation. And I think the only princesses that have less than her is like Pocahontas.
Mm-hmm.
But which is also unfortunate because they're wonderful. As far as Song of the South, jeez. That's not the move. I don't know why there was a petition, because like Jordyn said, it only deviated from the fact that we have real world issues that are going out here, like getting slaughtered like animals.
Can I ask a question?
Oh yeah,
Victoria.
Yeah, what's up?
Did you ever see anyone who was Black share the petition in a positive way? Because I don't think I have.
The only time, first off, I muted it because I was so annoyed. But when I did, people were sending it to me, and I was like, please stop sending this insulting crap to me.
Yes.
Like, and I only saw white people sending it, and it was my white friends that were sending it to me. It's like, oh, it's a wonderful idea. And I was like, let me sit you down, boo-boo, and tell you why.
Exactly.
So most of the time, I only saw it before it was like, oh, I told you so. And as a matter of fact, when I was voicing my opinion about why it was a bad idea, and a former Disney creative felt the need to tell me that the fact that Princess and the Frog overlay and splash, like over there in Disneyland anyway, would be so poetic as far as, yes, they told me that, that it would be poetic because it would be erasing the history and it would be beautiful. I'm like,
I'm tired. I'm exhausted.
and I feel like it's just like, y'all don't. And here's another thing, honestly, Disney community, y'all gotta take Disney out of everything. That's what it is at the end of the day. I feel like the only reason this petition came about was because Disney fans didn't really know how to cope with it without this. And I'm just like, okay, so how can I make this about Black lives and elevating Black lives in our community? Oh, let's take Princess and the Frog. Okay, cool. That's a good start, I guess. What can we do with let's Splash Mountain and put her first off? An overlay is freaking insulting. I get as a company that's cheap. We saw what they did with Space Mountain in Star Wars. I personally like it. Some people don't. It is what it is. But that's like she couldn't even get a whole restaurant. I heard that DVC resort is canceled now. I'm not sure if that's true, but she couldn't even get a whole restaurant. She got one that was inspired by the movie. Just give us the freaking restaurant.
It's all right there. It's all right there.
Literally right in front of you.
The whole ending of the movie. It's all right there.
You made a whole movie about this. Matter of fact, I said this before on our show. They took, and I was there when this happened, when they started building New Fantasyland. That's when I started my college program. So I was there when it opened. You made an entire land for Belle.
Yeah.
But you take the time. First off, you made an overrated sorry, it's overrated. An overrated restaurant, a slightly okay attraction, a quick service, a gift shop, and like, if you count the Beast in the restaurant, 2 meet and greets. And that's cool for Belle. Good for her, because she's my chick. But then you look at, and it's just like, we are just now getting a Black princess on the stage of Cinderella Castle, one of the biggest icons in tourism in the world. Like, people go to this park, and like, this is the goal for some people. Some people save money for this, and we're just now getting that. Like, and you think that's enough? Just one Black princess on a Cinderella's castle, maybe one meet and greet, some little bit of merch. Like, that's it. That's all she got. An occasional roam in Disneyland. Like, she has nothing. And you think it's okay, let's give her an overlay and we'll call it a day. We did so much work. You'll sign a petition for that, but you won't sign a petition to get Breonna Taylor's killers arrested.
Mm-hmm.
You'll sign that petition, but you won't sign this petition. The priority.
It's comfortable activism.
Exactly, that's what it is.
One is something that's easier to address because, at the end of the day, it's their world, it's their park. It's easy to say, slap a sticker on that. The other is real life, and it's harder to grasp the fact that this really happened to an innocent human being, and now we have to fight for justice. And it's not the first time we fought for justice. I'm only 26, and the number of petitions I've signed to fight for justice of people that look like me is it's wild. It's unbelievable.
really is crazy. And it's just like, well, go back to the Song of the South thing and finish up. But no, that's a terrible idea. I don't know why y'all think I'm addressing y'all. No, it's a whole don't ever give me that idea again. Don't ever insult my intelligence. Because at the end of the day, Princess and the Frog wasn't that great of a movie as far like it was good, and I'm not saying we're not appreciative of it because it was a long time coming.
Right.
But that was just the start. I don't know why you think it's okay. Hey, it's Tiana. Okay, we don't have to do anything more. No, give us an actual African princess. Give the representation. That's what it is. And the fact that you think an overlay will do it is absurd to me. Like, it clearly shows you how much you value and understand culture. Because, sorry, just because it's, I don't know. It's just like y'all, it's cinema and animation in general. There's a trend, even with Soul. You see it with Soul, and I've only seen trailers. He's just gonna be in it. Well, I guess he's just gonna be a Soul, but
a blob, a blue blob,
an abstract figure for 2 hours.
As a frog most of the movie. In Soul, you're gonna watch him mainly just be a blob most of the movie. That trend and a trend that's now being broken in just film in general, where we're not seen as we should be seen. So I don't understand why it's acceptable to have an overlay where you're not even going to see the actual princess. You're going to just see her in it. But at the end of the day, I guess that's what they're used to. They're just using us like animals. So, I mean, good for y'all for signing that petition, but go sign another petition about, Breonna Taylor.
Something worthwhile.
Something worthwhile.
Well, dang.
Rodney, now you have the tough act to follow.
You see, Victoria knows this. I attack it in a different way.
He does.
I do attack it in a different way because I'm very into armchair Imagineering. I am very into, the history of Imagineering and how Disney, Disney creates these stories that are memorable in the parks. And, going back, we all know that the reason we got a Song of the South theming in Splash On because the greatest Disney CEO thought that, Splash would be an amazing idea to, put in a water ride, a ride based on the recent movie that had come out around that time. But Tony Baxter was like, we have all these animatronics sitting around, and they're animals. And what movie has the most animals? That's in our catalog. What about Song of the South? Connecting the dots, and was it the right decision? Absolutely, absolutely not. I definitely think there were many other avenues for that. If you ever seen the concept for Tokyo Disneyland's version of like a Winnie the Pooh ride, that was supposed to be a water ride. That would have worked perfectly. Critter Country is right there. I had brought up an old concept when Haunted Mansion was being tossed around, and one of the ride, the modes of transportation they were thinking of was a water ride, which would be a flooded crypt in a flooded haunted house. And there's concept art out there. There's a blog post I could tell everybody. It's interesting, and there were so many avenues that you could go to, make a water ride and make a throw ride. Because the only reason why they were making a log ride back then because down the street, Knott's Berry Farms, had a really successful water ride called the Timber Mountain Log Ride, which is an amazing ride. Every time I go to, I have to ride it. But addressing Splash Mountain now, I do agree that it is basically impossible that they're gonna replace such a big moneymaker especially in California and Florida, where it is consistently hot, where it is consistently dry. everybody wants a good water ride. Personally, I prefer Grizzly Bear Rapids, Grizzly River Run. I way better water ride. But I just like Victoria, I can't bring myself to ride Splash Mountain. It just, as a kid, I would love it. Take me on Splash Mountain 2 times, but come last year, and I'm like, wait, Song of the South and Splash Mountain. I thought those were honest to God, I thought those were original characters of Splash Mountain. Like, honest to God, I did not think that they had any movie connection. And I find out there's this whole movie that's racially charged and has stereotypes that this is based on, and I'm like, oh, oh, I've been writing this my whole life and I never knew. Which I give people the benefit of the doubt. Like, you wrote it, you probably didn't know. It's fine, especially in California. We know when I bring it up to my friends and be like, oh, the South was very problematic. They're like, what the hell is Song of the South? I've never seen. It's very different over here. In regards to like Tiana parks and the whole situation, hell no, I don't think there should be an overlay of Splash Mountain for Tiana. Absolutely. That is, we hold Imagineering to such a high degree now, and after like rides like Rise of the Resistance and Batu and that whole line, we're not going to take it away anymore. We're not going to, especially like going back to like Belle and like Beauty and the Beast. Look at Tokyo Disneyland; they're getting a whole innovative ride. They're getting basically a whole other cast. Those animatronics are so smooth, and I believe that from now on, if we're doing rides, they need to be of that caliber. They need to be innovative. They need to implement new ride systems. They need to build from the ground up. And this whole Splash Mountain overlay thing is just—it's lazy. It's lazy. It's lazy. It's uncreative. It's uninspired. And personally, even if Disney was considering it, I doubt they would even do an overlay, because the backlash from that and the fact that they're taking out Splash Mountain is monstrous. Like I said, when it comes to my solutions, the only other way I see it working is if we just level that whole area and just start back up.
It's Bear Country again.
It's Bear Country, Critter Country, expand new, which I'm an advocate of. It's our least touched land. New Orleans Square is our least touched land. We got Mardi Gras that goes up every year around that time, but I think it's such. There's just ways that we can incorporate Tiana, especially Disneyland, because we have absolutely no excuse. We have a whole section dedicated to New Orleans. I would be all for Tiana's replacing, maybe like Cafe Orleans, and gutting and like completely making it over. Even expanding that whole French Quarter area and putting a restaurant there instead of replacing another restaurant. And not even that, they're just not tapping into. They're not tapping into an audience that just is waiting. We're waiting for that restaurant. We don't want a restaurant loosely inspired by Princess and the Frog with
we're not even getting that, so it doesn't even matter now.
Right. Right. So we didn't even get that. And people are gonna disagree. People think a splash free thing for Tiana is the answer, but it's not. You gotta think creatively. If you want to keep a water ride there, it would be so complex, and you would have to change up everything. And that's why I really say you would have to go Splash, because Splash is very narrative. It's and Damn, I'm reading the chat here too. I have it on the side. Somebody said the signage in the queue are the only reference to Song of the South, explaining the story. I mean, I would really disagree. You know, those characters are, um, seated in the Song of the South. Yes, they changed the baby scene to, scene and him getting stuck in a beehive. It if they even if they got rid of the signage, it's the core of the problem. You have characters that are embedded in a book years ago that are that they said very racial stuff in that book. If you've ever, like I said, go back to Sean and where he did a challenge for people to read out of the book, nobody read out of the book because it was very racist. And I think that while yes, we can have a discussion about Sean and discussion about changing it, nothing's going to change. They're not going to take out Splash Mountain. It's too much. There's too much merch. There's too much. Especially Critter Country. Half of Critter Country is basically just taken up by Splash Mountain. You have Winnie the Pooh there. You have Humpty Bear. It's not going to happen. It's wishful thinking, but I do advocate for Tiana getting her own section, getting her own new ride that I wouldn't necessarily follow because, like I said, she's a for most of it. On our podcast, I said I would something similar to Frozen Ever After, a whole new narrative, maybe continuing the story or something. Because, like I said, I see Tiana 75% of the ride. I want restaurants. I want we get. I can say that Disneyland does get a little bit more Tiana content than like Walt Disney World or like any other parks, which I'm grateful. That's my home park. I love Disneyland. I love seeing Tiana. We have to see Dr. Felier or Naveen or Tiana to go with my friends. It's nice to have that, but it's not available everywhere. And I think we just really need to work on creative solutions for problems that haven't been addressed yet.
And I think those solutions also have to be at the core of what that character is.
Right, exactly.
Don't just throw it. Like, I honestly don't think Tiana should get a ride because it wasn't what she had. Her entire arc was happening. The growth of her character happened while she was an animal. Right. You don't get to see her as a person. Mm-hmm. So instead, you go to who she is as a character.
Right.
And what she wanted, what she worked for her entire life was her restaurant. So you give the girl a restaurant. It's literally as simple as that.
That hard. Like, I don't want...
Right? Like, you put a building up, you put a restaurant, you want to make it expensive, throw a little hoopty-doo in it, make it a dinner show.
Yeah, I can say they've tested it already. Disney Cruise Line has Tiana's place. I forgot.
Boats, so we gotta put that on land. That's my problem.
Yeah. Let's take that off the boat. Let's bring it to the people on land because
so easy.
It's so easy.
You have to be at a park. You got how many resorts? We got 34 resorts at Walt Disney World. You tell me you can't find a place to put a building and a restaurant?
Lights,
twinkle lights, make them fireflies. Add a jazz band. Done. Thank you.
It'd be so great.
Boat rides. No one goes there.
No one goes to boat rides.
Now, it's small. I get it. You can't really do that. But if you're going to do an overlay, do it on a restaurant.
Make it to who she is as a person.
People might get on me for this, but I think that instead of that Muppets restaurant in Epcot, we should have just gone to Tiana's place.
See, the only issue I have with that is I don't like the American Adventure.
Yeah.
Their whole narrative. It's very Avery over there. And
that's a whole nother issue.
American Adventure, and then be like,
you knew exactly the questions I was going to ask next. That's incredible.
Oh my god, you see my mind.
No, was it?
But yeah, I think, I definitely agree with that. A ride for Princess of Rock would be very kind of
It's
kind of
cheap and basic.
It's cheap and basic. Not everything needs to be a ride.
Exactly. Inspire me.
But I definitely do want to try all that. I saw.
I need a good pot of gumbo.
I need a good pot of gumbo. I need some good beignets.
I'm saying.
Oh, beignets! Oh my god. Yeah, that was all fantastic, and also eye-opening. You know, because the way that we tell Splash Mountain's history, and I'm responsible for this as well because this is what I do, and that coping mechanism comes up, and it's like, oh, just say the movie was controversial, but it actually doesn't really matter in this grand scheme of it. Totally not getting the point, and I take responsibility for that, and I hope more people do too. But I do want to ask, we were segueing into, you mentioned Jordyn, American Adventure. Now this is kind of an interesting question, I think, and Rodney, since you know a lot about the history of Imagineering, I'd love to hear your thoughts on this as well. Of course, we'll hear everyone's thoughts. So I've been actually thinking a lot lately about that collaboration between Herb Ryman and Alex Haley of making an equatorial African pavilion in the World Showcase and how that got cut. And I've been thinking, of course, I've always thought that would have been one of the most incredible additions to the park. I've been thinking a lot about it now. And I do think Disney has a really great history. Not necessarily, they're not necessarily good at the narrative of history that they present, but they are good, excellent at engaging and using their resources and engaging a crowd in history telling. And I'm curious about how the company, and I know they're obsessed with IP integration, but I'm curious how the company can sort of go back to that legacy, but relook at these attractions and these parks that do that, and how they can sort of tell new narratives in the spirit of the way Disney's been able to engage crowds with history. I think they sort of have a responsibility to engage people with the history that should be told. So I'm curious about your thoughts about how the Disney company can sort of go about doing that.
I want Wakanda in Future World.
Wakanda in Future World.
Animal Kingdom.
Oh my God!
It does not need to be an Animal Kingdom. I'm saying that right now with my
She is going for it. She is going for it. And she's going for the kill. Unfortunately, Universal would shut that down so quick.
I'll have a conversation with them. Ain't nothing good over at Universal.
Because they don't have the option to, because it's so funny. They don't use Black Panther prominently, but he's in like a picture at a restaurant in Marvel Superhero Island, so it's off limits to us.
So I'm hearing Black Panther. I'm not hearing Shuri.
I'm
hearing Black Panther. I'm not hearing Shuri.
Oh my gosh! You know what?
Shuri, I could to bring up Black engineering and female excellence in Future World.
And then
you know what?
I love that you're saying Future World. It's amazing. Yeah.
I
heard a narrative a while ago that was like, yeah.
Everyone wants to say, no, it needs to go to Animal Kingdom. And I'm like, because it's in Africa? No.
First off, let's start there. Why? That's the whole stereotype. Why? And it's just like, we all saw Black Panther, right? Like,
that thing screams Tomorrowland, Future World, something.
Oh, that's amazing.
I think because I love Avengers Campus. You know me. I am a huge Avengers Campus fan. I am waiting, and I'm hoping that I really wish that they put that scientific center at the end of Black Panther that Shuri was starting in Disneyland, because that was the perfect way to introduce Black culture, and Wakanda in reality is just a mishmash of different tribes, different countries in Africa. And it would work so well. And going back to your question, saying like how they could do it, IP based would be hard, because we pretty much when everybody thinks of Black IP, it goes to Tiana.
Right.
With me, I would dig more deep into like African lore and like legends and storytelling. IP's just, there's just no way, unless Disney starts creating more IP. I definitely don't see a ride King, especially the newer one, because that's a damn travesty. It just animal. You can't. That's another thing that came to mind. Africa, like the Lion King. Like, yes, okay, we love the Lion King. They're animals. They are not black people. They are animals, and most of the main character in the animated one was voiced by a white person. So let's not forget that.
That narrative of Nala's the first actual African princess. Like,
Right.
the lioness?
Well, she was. My God. I mean, I think it was just we were taking what we could get at that point.
Right.
Exactly.
Which
I'll understand that, but after Tiana came, I'm like, no.
No.
She's not. Nala's not a black princess. We just need to stop that conversation.
If we go there, she's not even human. But at the end of the day, I do agree with the animal thing. I definitely agree with the Wakanda Future World thing, only because it is so important to give children, especially black children, an introduction.
Exactly.
And that's just me as a teacher. Like, introducing that STEM process to children, then we will be able to give them that foundation to actually want to be Imagineers and give them that path to be able to make the changes that we're fighting for now. It's all there. It's just, can you just hire me back, Disney? Like, I can help.
I'm saying, like, I'm going to school for Imagineering. So if y'all hear this, I got my resume on hand. So basically, the way that like I would approach it, I feel like an attraction. You can't implement all of African culture in like an attraction or something. It's too complex. There's so many branches of African culture, because Africa's not a country. And there are many different cultures in it. I think just like cultural representatives in an area, maybe like you said, that old concept, maybe bring it back, bring more like shows and restaurants, like authentic African cuisine, and just giving people the chance to understand, basically, our ancestry and where we come from, and how how they tell their stories, and how they communicate, and how people just how they share their culture. And it's definitely important. And one of the things that I talk about on our podcast a lot is that I feel like we need more like Black Imagineers on this. We need more Black Imagineers. We need more African American Imagineers in a theme park environment. And that's exactly why I intend wholeheartedly to be in on this industry, because we need more Black stories in theme parks. We need to see yes, yes, there a majority of the people that go to theme parks are privileged, but there are still, the Black children that go to Disney World and they can only see Tiana. Maybe they'll go to the festival of the Lion King, but like I said, that's absolutely bare minimum.
And I will say that this is a big difference between Disneyland and Disney World. The famous quote, "The blessing of size." Animal Kingdom Lodge, again, back to Animal Kingdom, I know, but Animal Kingdom Lodge, I feel like, does do a rather decent way of embracing and introducing African culture, especially when it comes to food, through Boma and Sanaa. And I mean, I know Boma's my favorite breakfast, hands down, all the time. I will always tell people go to Boma for breakfast. And it has these little introductions that is not as scary to people. Like, you can try these authentic African meals at this buffet, but like, oh no, that's too scary. I need my Simba waffles. They're still there.
My chicken tenders and fries.
Exactly. But like, if you are just want to branch out just a little bit, and since they do have a lot of cultural representatives that work there as well,
right?
Just taking the time, and that's another thing that it also comes down to guests. Like, take the time to get to know the people who are working at this company. These are people. They have stories. They are from a different place. Talk to them. I'm telling you, cast members love to tell other people about themselves. Everyone wants to talk about themselves. So take that time and, like, I know you're on vacation. Things are crazy.
Right.
You're running back and forth. Take 5 seconds to do a crayon coloring in the lobby of Animal Kingdom Lodge, like an etching, and talk to the cultural representative there. Have them tell them about where they're from, or where their culture is
Right.
from, or what their favorite food is from their culture that's not here, what the differences are. And that is also part of the education there.
Yes.
So
Oh,
that's where we put it back into the guests' hands of be responsible for that education. Like, Disney can only do so much, but you also have to be responsible for that as well. Because it's
no,
there. No one wants to drive out to Animal Kingdom Lodge.
I agree completely. Well, yes, as far as crap. And I will say I did for a short period of time actually work at Animal Kingdom Lodge. So I am familiar with, well, in the training, they do kind of touch base on as far as like, what inspired it, what's in it, the culture, all that stuff. And like, they do a great job of food speeding it to people. Like, that's what it is. I mean, but at the same time, that's kind of what people want from us. They want us to spoon feed it to them.
Yeah.
It's just, look, I teach preschoolers. I don't teach people my age. That's just my choice. But Animal Kingdom Lodge is a great start. Like you said, like, talk to the cultural representatives. You can do it at Epcot. People just choose not to.
Right.
Like, I travel because I do travel. If I do a Disney trip before, I go to them. I want to know where to eat. So I'm like, you need to give me, here's a pen and paper, write down where I'm going to see. That's what it is. But yes, I do agree. It's just like even in Animal Kingdom, for example, like, you have a whole section for Africa, which I do actually, if I recall correctly, that's why they didn't do that pavilion at Epcot.
I think that was part of it. They were able to expand more.
Which I think it was. I think Joe Rohde went back to that concept art, but
yes,
I don't know, because they were working on that in the late 70s, and I don't think Animal Kingdom was even a spur of a thought. But yeah,
that's Rodney's territory. I don't touch that really, but so yeah, it's just like I actually prefer that more, the fact that they expanded on it. And if you look at the stages of Animal Kingdom, they do touch on poaching and all that stuff, as far as like you said, we even saw it in the Imagineering story. If you haven't, watch it. But he even touches on the fact that he went to these countries and got and brought them back over, and even did everything exact to make sure you could understand and feel like you were there. But at the same time, I really don't appreciate how they kind of made it look third world, because Africa isn't third world. Just like
right.
in Black Panther, for example, everyone had this misconception that Wakanda was a third world country that needed help but just wouldn't accept aid, when in reality they were doing better than the whole
yeah,
right. But another concept that I really like, recently it's been coming out, and we've been educating people on a lot of Black inventors that have created staples of American culture, and I think Epcot is the perfect place to do that. Perfect place to do that. Think of all like, a Black person created the traffic light. A Black person, all of these things that are so normalized in culture, it comes from Black people. And I think maybe God, take out an American adventure and put something like that.
Oh, see, I was up further. I was actually gonna say I would take out American Adventure, because I mean, it's important, but I would change some things. I mean, again, you gotta they romanticized it, so it's gotta be.
Oh yeah, the whole Civil War concept. Yeah.
So what I was actually
to talk about Uncle Tom's Cabin,
right?
He's not even talking about his own contributions. He's talking about a white person. Anyway, yeah.
Exactly.
Because the fact of the matter is, it's hard for Black people to actually go back and find their ancestors. done it. I've tried on my own. I'm probably just gonna end up having to hire someone to do it just because it's been erased. So I was gonna say something similar to how UK you could find like
The
who you
last name.
the last name and all that stuff. Help get with ancestry.com. Do a partnership with them and just hey, if you're black and you want to know something about your ancestry or anything about like Rodney said, like black history and how black people contributed to the civilization that we have today, here's a center for it. You can do STEM, you can do, like just have a center where you can like look up your last name and just see how far back you can go. And if you find someone to help you with that, then you can, because at the end of the day, our stories are being lost.
Right.
Go. Like I can't go past World War II to find any of my ancestors.
Wow.
But my friend, my old roommate, she just found out she's a descendant of someone from the Tudors. She can go that far back, but I can't go past World War II.
And I think an important way we can do this, and I'm pretty sure they probably already out. We know Spaceship Earth is getting revamped and refurbished and cleaned out and refreshed. Like do a segment like even on like Black women in STEM and add more cultures in there God, I know we were freaking out about Foxy Brown being removed. Which oh my god.
Well, I mean, I'm biased, so
we're biased.
The update is going away from how we communicate and going into what we communicate. Like that's the difference there, because now it's all about like, okay, we learned our ABCs, we have things to Phoenicians, and then we got computers, and how computers interact. That's where Foxy comes in. But now it's more of what stories were we passing down. So I'm semi hopeful in that, because that's how stories got told. Like I know everything about my family's history because my dad sat with my grandmother and listened to all of her stories, and they took the time. I know my dad and my uncle curate that so that my cousins and I have something when they're no longer here to pass down, so that history isn't lost. So I'm semi hopeful, and like this much hopeful, that when they go through and they start looking at these stories, it's not all gonna be like whitewashed history, but like, okay, this is how like people like how Spaceship Earth starts now, and they have like the drawings on the wall, like that's staying, and then from there that's when they're moving on to like the quote unquote Moana scene, how people like use they use the stars to tell the stories, and so that's what it is. It's more of like what stories and how legends get passed on.
And
so
and I think there's a ton of not even like African stories, like African American stories that they can tell in that setting. Think like I was just sitting here, I'm thinking like John Henry. That is like a famous Disney short, and they haven't even done anything with that in the parks yet, and that could be placed. Make like a like a folklore pavilion or something, and include that, because John Henry is like taught to every African American kid now. I watched it in elementary school, and I love that. Is my favorite short collection of like American shorts. John Henry, it was he wasn't real, but it was just it's a symbol of Black resilience. Against he was forced to work these on this railroad, and he got tired of them taking advantage of his brothers and sisters, and like the African Americans, and like just like workers in general. And he was like, you know what, I'm gonna stand up to it, and he carved through a mountain, and that that's just such a symbol on like solidarity and community. And I think like maybe like that would be a great way to introduce Black folklore into the uh, into the parks. And there's many ways to do it. There's not going to be one way. I'm sure the Imagineering team now could come up with something. But like I said, if you don't have Black creators and Black people in the theme park industry, it's not
right. The stories won't.
It's not going to be possible. It's going to be. It's not. And you're not seeing it with their eyes. So, I'm hopeful that Disney will maybe do more looking into diversity in that department, and then maybe we can get someone.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, and it doesn't have to be something massive, and that's another thing.
We need some more A attractions.
That too, I was getting with too, as far as the Song of the South and the Princess and the Frog thing. We're not asking for the moon,
right?
Like, we're asking because I get it, it has to be introduced. So it's just like people who never knew these things are now just learning. To be overwhelming. So it can be little things. It can be like what is the people that sing in American
Voices of Liberty.
Voices of Liberty. I'm sorry because I love them. I feel bad, but it can be simple as them getting a group of Black singers to sing I don't know, something powerful, lift every voice and sing. Because I did a poll a while back and dang it. And I was like, how many people, matter of fact, this was Black History Month thing. I was like, do you know the song Lift Every Voice and Sing? Because that's a very important song for our culture. And almost no one knew it. And I couldn't understand why, because when I was in elementary school, before we would even do the Pledge of Allegiance, we would sing Lift Every Voice and Sing every day. Because that's how important it is. But no one knew about it. So it can be something as simple as introducing that. It can be simple as changing the narrator in Spaceship Earth to I don't know,
Morgan Freeman.
Oh, that's a great choice. I was gonna say James Earl Jones, but that's a fantastic choice.
Oh, I was gonna say Angela, but
Angela Bassett too. Let's get her in there.
Right.
Black women voices.
Right.
Yes, there you go.
First off, the fact that they made her the creator of the Imagineering story. Yes.
Oh, I know.
I love that.
But it's just incorporated Epcot. We don't, honestly, I'm not even saying put a whole pavilion there. If you do, it will be great, because then there will be another place for cultural representatives to speak besides Animal Kingdom Lodge, because Animal Kingdom Lodge, so not everybody. Also, it's
exactly. It's literally on the edge of campus. It's in a different county.
It's little West Bumble somewhere, but
literally in Osceola County.
Exactly. So it's just it would be more accessible for people to get that information too, because I mean, no one's really staying. I'm not saying no one's staying there, but it's so far.
You'll reach more people in a park than you do in a resort.
Because people go to I know I do, but most people go to Epcot or World Pavilion. I mean, World Showcase. I'm sorry. And I call myself a Disney fan, but
you're getting dragged tonight.
Okay, so it's just especially with food and wine, I do know they have a stand there for when they do African food, but it's just we need something permanent. It has
But also those stands, the food and wine things, are run by cast members. They're not run by cultural representatives.
That too. So I mean, it's tough. But at the same time, we have some brilliant minds in this company. Just like Rodney said, if we get more Black Imagineers or Black creatives that aren't the title of Chief Officer of Diversity Inclusion.
Oh my gosh, right?
I get that. I get it. But at the same time, it's just, if we get more, then at a higher level, not just at a quick service level or just a level. If we get more people higher up, then those stories will be able to be told better,
right,
in an appropriate way. Because I feel it's just a fear to touch it, out of fear of insulting us, and it's just at the same time, you're not even asking us. So, I would it's extremely hard for us as fans to reach you. So, I mean, you have to reach out, you have to research, you have to want to listen, and then be able because there's no reason people comparing Pandora, which I have seen. Why?
I will say with Josh being higher up now and working under him, I feel like the way that people are speaking out now is different than before, in the sense of I don't think it's a trend. I think there's a giant fire under our butts as a Black culture to not let it slip. Like, things come and go. We've seen it happen how many times now? Like, how many times have we hashtag Black Lives Matter in the past 5 years? But I feel this. I've said it from the beginning. This one always felt different, and that we're not going to let it slide. And so I think as long as we just, keep raising those voices and just keep reminding them 6 months from now, nothing's changed. Hey, remember that little, the box you posted on Instagram talking about how you were standing with the city? I got screenshots. Remember that? Maybe we should go back to that.
Oh, that's
just a reminder.
That is a good point too. Activism isn't like the 1 month thing, you're done. Activism, especially for us, is a commitment for our lifetime, because
exactly.
it affects our life. I live in dangerous cities, in America. So, yeah, when you're fighting for Black Lives Matter, you're essentially to live. I don't know why people feel the need to Disneyfy everything, because, I don't want to be buried in Haunted Mansion. So I don't know what it, but at the end of the day, activism isn't just a 1 week thing and then you're done. If you're gonna support every now and again. I don't care how often you do it, but it's a commitment. So,
like I said, if you need to take a break, take 5 minutes, grab a drink of water, take a nap, come back.
You all make a really great point. And I actually wanted to ask, before we have to wrap up, is there a final message you have about activism, about Black Lives Matter, and then about the Disney community as well? Keeping in mind that there's a lot of people out there that are kind of like, oh, well, why should we support Black Lives Matter if it only helps the Black community, which obviously isn't true. But I'd like to hear your opinions on that so we can wrap up the show.
Oh, well, like we've said, we're going to keep talking about this. It's not going to be, just a one thing. It's going to be consistent. And, now that we've gotten traction, I'd definitely be shutting up about it. It's ever changing, and there'll be more issues to talk about. And, I think we should stay resilient with that. Not even just for Black creators, non-Black creators have a responsibility too. And it is possible to change, and I feel like people think it's going to be impossible, but it's not. It's happened before. And it's so important to just keep it up. As soon as you start letting your guard down, the system's just going to go right back into how it was. And like I said, just start small. You don't have to change the world in 5 days. Hold creators accountable. Look inside the community, just like how like we said, Disney needs to look inside the community, inside our community, figure out the problems, smooth them out, and then we can move on. Going outside of that and spreading the word.
Victoria.
Oh.
Or anyone.
I feel like kind of hard to explain. I'll let Jordyn go so I can gather my thoughts.
No problem. So for me, the biggest thing is don't wait until our stories have to become hashtags. I've been so passionate about that as well the past 3 weeks. And I feel like every time that something happens, someone is killed, that's the only time that it seems that their story has mattered. And so I've been focusing on kind of making sure that we have a living legacy. So, listening is so good. Active listening and asking in appropriate ways for what the appropriate next step is. And that's the biggest thing. is don't rely on your Black friends to do the emotional labor. However, there's a way to go about it. You know, if like for me personally, I'm a little more open. I felt like I love to talk. I love to tell stories. I love to help. So I've been that one that's like people come to me and like, can I ask you something? And I'll be like, sure. That's how you do it. You ask the person first. And then from there, if they say no, don't get defensive. You'll be like, okay, that's fine. I will go educate myself. But don't be afraid to ask, and don't be afraid to say I don't understand it, because it's the defensiveness is where everything shuts down.
Mhm.
We don't expect you to understand the past 400 years of oppression, because I know I've lived it for 26 and I still don't understand why it's happening. It just does. It's just been happening. I don't know why, it just is. So don't be afraid to be wrong. Don't be afraid to stand up for the right versus the wrong. And like I said earlier, if everything is too wide and too complex, dumb it down, simplify it, water it down. Right or wrong? Was it good? Was it not? No. So then we speak out against it. And when it comes to Disney, it's okay to separate it. Trust me, I love Disney. I'm sitting in my apartment where I have a wall full of mini ears, a bookshelf full of plates, and a Skyliner toy and mugs, looking right at it. It's everywhere. But at the same time, I'm able to separate it because of my intersectionality. Yes, I'm a Disney fan, but I'm also Black, and I will always be Black. You know, I don't always have to be a Disney fan. I will always be Black, and this is a fight that I will always be fighting. So don't lead the charge. Follow it. Listen to what Black voices have to say and help amplify those Black voices. That's how we're going to get ahead. Using your place of privilege that you have and helping amplify those who are not being seen.
All right. And now.
Amazing.
Maybe I should have went. As far as I'll start with the Disney community. Again, like Jordyn said, it's okay to separate it. Like, I get Disney is escapism, but Disney will not be your crutch in this matter. Not if I have it. So, with that being said, it is okay to, in fact, share a petition or tweet about it, and then talk about how on July 11th probably going to be chaotic. But so it's okay. No one's gonna judge you. You know what? Here's what I'll say. I will judge you if I know you have a voice and I don't see you share not one thing about Black Lives Matter, but you will share something about how the parks are opening soon. I will judge you. I will never judge you for sharing a petition, for sharing information to your followers about what they can do, or educating them about the history. And when we're educating you about the history, there's no need to get defensive, because at the end of the day, it happened. We can't change it. All you can do is take it and grow from it, because we are human beings and we grow from knowledge, and that's where we get where we are today. So it's just a matter of being able to separate yourself from that and understanding how it affects us as Disney fans. Because at the end of the day, like Jordyn said, we might not be Disney fans tomorrow, but we'll still be. And when we go to these parks, us being Black affects our experience at these parks, because at the end of the day, I'm sure each and every one of us have experienced racism at least once. So that's also, I'm not going to get into that because I have actually experienced that, but it's just like, yeah, it does affect you because we're Disney fans, and you shouldn't want to see me as a fan and be discriminated just because of my skin color in a park where the escapism is supposed to be fun, it's supposed to be magical, good for everyone. Like, Mickey Mouse don't care if you're Black or white. He just cares about getting that coin. So that's that. So just use your voice and use your privilege. It can be something as simple as sharing a petition, and simple as sharing like a post like that Jordyn shared, Sean or Rodney, or I can't think of anyone else. They're just anyone that shares something that you trust them and know it's for the movement, retweet it. Takes 30 seconds.
Mm-hmm.
That's what you have to do. Just educate yourself. And if you have questions, like Jordyn said, ask. But don't expect me to be your Google search engine.
Right.
So that's what we do, because we're mentally drained. We go through this out every day.
Mm-hmm.
You guys are probably going through it like for a month and some change. So understand that we're exhausted as well. So just be more self-aware is what I'm getting at. Be more self-aware, be more open to learning and understanding the changes and new information that's coming in, that what you understood when you were young may not be the case. Like, I just saw an article the other day where like, hey, George Washington did not in fact have wisdom teeth, which I hope everyone didn't believe. I actually didn't know this. I knew he had teeth, but I did not know that they came from slaves.
Mm-hmm.
Which I did not remember that for some reason. But yeah, it's just like what we learned may not be the case now. So be open to understanding that and be open to embracing that. So that's it.
Bravo.
Right.
I could sit here for hours and talk to you guys about Disney and anything, history. But we do have to end this sometime.
Well, yeah. Thank you, all three of you, for coming out to today's episode. And of course, thank you to everybody in the chat as well. We appreciate every single one of you. And of course, links to all of Victoria's, Rodney's, and Jordyn's social media will be down in the description as well. And I think
I think we may have, Matt, we'll put descriptions to different organizations people can donate to for Black Lives Matter as well.
Yes, also down in the description as well. And yeah, I think on that note, it's time to wrap up today's episode. Thank you so much for coming out. And as always,
yes, I want to thank you all again. Thank you so much for just talking about it and voicing your message.
And any of you are welcome back anytime. I mean, anytime. I had such a good time.
Thank you.
All right. Well, like I was saying, thank you all for coming out to today's episode. And as always, have a great, big, beautiful tomorrow.